Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We got a little late start, so I can't say hey to everyone, but I'll at least give out the gold positions, the medal positions tonight. It looks like we have Race Fan with the gold. We have Robert Lamont Jr. with the silver, and we have Kitty Caddywhack with the bronze, and we have Roger Murray saying, Rob G, I'm in the hospital. I have a leg infection. Pray for me. I'm type 2 diabetic and have stage 4 kidney damages. Prayers out to you, Roger Murray. Hope you get better. And I'll say hi to everybody during the next break. So let me go ahead and get the podcast side of this started, and then we'll get to radio. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We are going to have a fantastic show tonight. We have Kristi Bass and Jared Murphy from RKEO X talking ancient civilization, ancient humanity. It should be interesting. Hours 1 and 2. Then Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up, and Steve Stockton in hour 3. Jam-packed show. Let's go to radio. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. Tonight, we'll be broadcast to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives for absolutely free. YouTube.com/@Spaced-Out-Radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow us on X and Instagram @Spaced-Out-Radio and our Spaced Out Radio show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SR Newswire. You can get yourself some official Spaced Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the man you hear right there, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot, and so much more. It's going to be a fantastic show tonight. We have Kristi Bass and Jared Murphy from RKEO X talking ancient civilizations and where did humanity originate. I have so many questions, and I'm sure you guys do too. We'll be doing that for hours 1 and 2. And then hour 3, we will bring in Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up, like always, and get into some Steve Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries. action-packed show. Make sure you guys don't go anywhere tonight, and we're not going to waste any time at all. We're going to hop right on into the show. Bring our guest in, Kristi and Jared. How are you guys today?
We're doing great.
Thank you. We're great.
Thanks is awesome. Yeah, no problem at all. Glad to have you guys. Actually, mutual friend Mark Eddy. Shout out to Mark Eddy. Got this all set up for me, and I'm like, he just understands where I'm going with this, and he understands the type of conversations that I like to have. So, shout out to Mark Eddy out there, and you guys. So let's go ahead and get this started with how you guys met, how you got together, what paths led you into now doing RKEO X.
All right, yeah, that's a big one. You want to go from the part where you got indoctrinated, or the part where I just,
Yeah.
So, no, you go ahead. It was his baby from the beginning, so I'll let him take that.
So a long time ago, well, a few years ago, I wrote a book called "It's Not Aliens, Worse It's Us: Discovering Our Lost History," and that was after doing a lot of field research and looking into our ancient prehistory. And there was this idea that we could get out in the field and maybe start not just asking the question about our ancient past, but also maybe we could start looking into it. And so we started doing that. And one of our first expeditions was to Belize to look for Mayan ruins on private land, about 7,000 acres, and took target sites using satellite imaging. And we did good. We found an archaeological theft site, and we wanted to apply what we could ask questions about ancient past and consciousness, but in the real world. And so the group started coming together as to who's going to do all this work. And then fast forward another year and a half-ish year. And then we were looking for someone to do aerial lidar, not just do satellite imaging, but do aerial lidar. And Kristi was somebody that one of our partners, Tom Elmore, brought in and said, hey, this is somebody we might have for lidar, because we're going to go back to Belize and we're going to go work on some other ruins, and we're going to start clearing these 8 Mayan pyramids. But again, that's dynastic stuff. We were looking for what's our prehistory, but convinced Kristi here to come along. And one expedition later, it's like, well, now we're partners.
Okay, here we are. And I honestly had no idea what I was doing when I got down there. We'd had conversations on the phone, but when I got the invite, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. I was like, yeah, this is cool. I'm going. And, but yeah, I really didn't even know until I got down there what I was in for, which it was interesting. It was super fun.
Yeah.
It was an amazing trip. But yeah, so I worked for a lidar company that does aerial lidar. And so the difference in what we did down there and what I do is what we did down there was we walked lidar. And for those listeners or watchers that don't know, lidar basically shoots lasers. It's a sensor. It shoots lasers down at the earth and back up to the sensor. It counts the time between the surface that it hits and back up, and builds a model of the earth. So basically you can build models of the earth with trees, and then you can click a button and you can erase all the trees and just see the surface. It's really neat. And so it's one of the ways that we've been able to make a lot of these really cool archaeological discoveries, like in the Amazon and all over the world, is aerial lidar, is flying lidar. And so Tom contacted my company to go down there and fly lidar, which we didn't fly it, but we were able to walk. So that was cool.
Yeah, the walking lidar does about 350,000 points of data per square meter. Aerial lidar is detailed, but not like walking lidar. So you're getting the same kind of imaging, except just extremely more detailed, more like a video game. Mm. And so we're on these Mayan ruins for everyone, 270 feet in the air. These are like shaved down mountaintops with multiple buildings on them. And then the natural sides of these 270 feet, they have them pyramided. So it's not like a solid pyramid, but they use the surface. So you can imagine not just ball courts or ceremonial, but maybe even when you're up in Belize, is very humid and hot. So if you're up at this level, upper echelons of society, it's hard to not imagine being up there. It's like natural air conditioning. There's a massive breeze. So we're busy working. And when you're at the ruins, we're not down in the jungle. We're above and on all these high plane areas doing the lidar work, but it's incredibly pleasant. But the detail and the work we were doing is just a fraction of everything RKEO X is. And so wherever you want to go from here, we're all up for it. Thank you, Mark.
Definitely. And I would have thought that lidar from above, from a plane, would be more detailed than ground lidar. For whatever reason, it just seems like, I don't know, you have the full scope of the area that you're trying to, but I guess that makes sense. You know, they definitely use lidar, and I have a friend, actually, friend of the show, Jim Goodall, who's actually just come from Belize on something very similar. They went down to the
group.
You know, Jim, you were part of the group.
That was my group. Jim came at my invite.
Nice. So okay, so I saw all the pictures, I saw the tombs, and yeah, so now okay, that's great. I like that synchronicity there. So yeah, so I guess he's talking about going back, and I'm guessing he's going back with you, and he was talking about the exact same thing. So that makes sense then. So
yeah,
go ahead.
Oh no, he was part of he came on the first expedition. He was invited, and then he wasn't part of the team that did the satellite imaging. That was Tom Elmore, myself, and another couple people. This third expedition with Kristi, the lidar group, you know, was really mostly Tom Elmore and Kristi assisting. Elmore did the walking lidar. Again, you walk back and forth, you create patterns, and again, it's not in the air. Planes are faster, right? They move fast, so they don't have the same imaging ability as someone walking with a machine.
Well, it's also about the coverage area as well. When you're and also the canopy. So when you're shooting lidar, when there's a lot of canopy, which in Belize at the time there wasn't, because they were doing this widespread burn, which is perfect for imaging for lidar. Because if you've got like a dense canopy, the lasers don't shoot through dense canopies. So it's hard to see what's beneath the surface without walking it. So and we could have gone down there with aerial lidar and probably gotten very similar results because of the burn, and there wasn't a thick canopy. But like if you go down into the Amazon where there's just thick jungle canopy all around, it's harder to get to the surface and see what's underneath the canopy. So that's why they do a lot of drone work and walking lidar in areas like that.
Drones are slower, more
now,
detailed.
You guys have along with these expeditions, you have a podcast called Not Aliens. So what is not aliens? Okay, I think I know what that means, but go ahead.
Yeah. So look, there are space traveling anthropologists. I'm sure there's space tourists, and I'm sure there's aliens. But the point of my book, It's Not Aliens, Worse It's Us, Discovering Our Lost History, is because there are too many scientific, mathematical maps, things within us, but things that we've mystified, deified, turned into paranormal, or we'll say it's something other than what it's a biotechnology or something. But in writing Not Aliens, it's that there's such a massive amount of data that shows these ancient megalithic ruins aren't just big. They involve sciences that involve really either aliens just randomly help cavemen bang rocks together and then build 1,000-ton megalithic constructions that are built perfectly on energetic ley lines and are made perfectly to work with frequencies and energies, or humanity, based on all the evidences, including Michael Cremo's work with Forbidden Archaeology. We've gotten to interview him on RKEO X, but Cremo points out all the finds of tens of millions of years of human antiquity, not hundreds of thousands, not tens of thousands, millions of years of human antiquity, which show not only that we've been here a long time, but the level of technology from what's in the soil, like terra preta, this engineered, self-replicating advanced soil that is all over the earth, same recipe. That means a single group of humanity made a soil that could filter heavy metals and carbon dioxide and send and receive frequency and energy signals. And then these large megalithic constructions all indicate a time where humanity would have easily been able to manipulate bioengineering, integrate with machinery, like we have thinking with planes. So could someone who looks like a space traveling gray alien actually be an integrated ancient 10 million year old human that is part of an integrated technical system that allows them to think with the machines that they're using, but no different than we go get Botox or anything else? The reality is that it's more than likely that we've missed a massive amount of human history. The technologies that are left point to the fact that some of the alien things that we think are alien might actually be, in fact, ancient humans. And that's one of the cases I make within the book. And that's where Not Aliens comes from. That wasn't too long, was it? Is that too long?
No, that wasn't long.
That was perfect. That was perfect. And actually, it's a very interesting outlook because, yeah, I mean, when you talk about that, there are a lot of things when you look around that just don't make sense given the timelines that they try to constrain all this in. And obviously, you know, within the UFO community, which essentially is who we speak to, there's a lot of different beliefs on the origins of humanity and how we got here and how long we've been here. From your perspective, with this outlook of potentially humans being here millions of years, what would you say is your humanity origin story or most likely thing that you could come up with?
Well, here's the thing. So Michael Cremo's Forbidden Archaeology, and I'm referencing it because Michael spent 10 years collecting paleoanthropological finds, not opinions, not someone's ideas, but actual Harvard, Yale, Oxford, all these paleoanthropologists and archaeologists finding evidences of actual human antiquity. So these aren't opinions. So like Table Mountain in California, let me give you one example. That's 60 million year old artifacts and evidences of human activity, 60 million years. There's a boot print that was studied by the Rockefeller Foundation, 120, 140 million years, give or take. So it's not an opinion about the antiquity of humanity. There's plenty of finds.
There's a 2 million year old femur that's an exact match to human DNA that was found.
And then 1.4 million, 1.7 million, 400,000, 600,000 years. So these are all actual evidences. They're not opinions. They're just facts. The problem is that when you're saying biblically, I mean, I was raised severely Catholic. Kristi luckily wasn't. But
yeah, so I wasn't raised in anything really. And then I married into Christianity, and then now I just consider myself a spiritualist.
But not for anyone who still is. The earth is 10,000 years old, and you have these more ancient ones, Hinduism. You have lots of things that say, okay, well, there were gods and they were hundreds of millions of years old. Well, what if the gods were just advanced humans? And what if the stories are just allegories because somebody remembers and remembers and remembers, and we think, okay, well, let's go back to Tepe. When I started, right before my book came out, so we're talking 6 years ago, give or take, you could go online, and this is why I tell everyone to screenshot everything on the internet. You could look up Göbekli Tepe, and here's what it said. Right now, if you look it up, it'll say, oh, it's about 12,000 years old. No, the minute it made big news 6-7 years ago, it was 26 to 36,000 years old based on carbon dating. It was clearly intentionally buried. Klaus Schmidt, yada, yada, yada. All this stuff was out there. And now everyone just says, well, it's at 12,000 years old. And I'm looking around like this is some sort of weird butterfly effect or something.
It's like we've reached out timelines or realities or something. Like history is just being erased right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, and that's recent. So we have tens of millions of years of human history, and then we think, well, it doesn't mean they're advanced. But when you look at 3,000 ton blocks, 1,000 ton blocks, it's not just their size at like Baalbek, Lebanon. It's the complexity of which they're designed. It's the Babylonian Plimpton tablet. It's the YBC tablet where you have spherical base 60 math on a cuneiform tablet, which if you aren't using frequencies and energies, you don't need to have a spherical based math system to understand how you build stuff or do things. You don't need to do that. So there's, again, physical evidences, the antiquity of humanity. So what does it mean about origins? Okay, well, if we have 150 million year old boot print and the limit to us finding the length, one more thing, Austin, Texas, right outside of it, there's the Galt Archeological site. They have mastodon bones that have been worked on by humans. They have toolings. They found a floor of a construction 22 feet down that was 22 to 36,000 years old. But that's like nothing compared to the millions we're talking about. So again, we're not being told our history, but we think of past because we look at the Natural History Museum, everyone's in a loincloth. They can't do anything with rocks, but they can make loincloths. They can bang rocks and make loincloths, but they can't get, anyway, that's our mindset. It's like the minute we say 10,000 years ago, we all picture what I grew up with or what Kristi, the whole, it's just primitive people. But that's not what's in the math, in the constructions. And terra preta, again, this is an engineered soil. So it's made by man, it self-replicates, richest growing soil on earth, filters heavy metals and carbon dioxide, and it's been studied. It's the basis for modern biochars, but it's all over the earth. And who's ever engineering this and whoever did it, what point, and when it's self-replicating, so they come up with dates and say, well, the oldest dates that I've seen are 8,000, 6,000, 8,000 years old, but it self-replicates. So it's not going to look like it's millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years old. So we're left with Sanskrit stories about Hindu gods being hundreds of millions of years old. We have biblical stories that say, well, in the beginning there was Adam and Eve, but again, if we all came from two people, that would be kind of odd, genetically speaking. But all said and done, we don't have an origin. So the problem now is, to answer your question, is it's only more questions because.
So to sum up all of what was just said, is he doesn't know.
That's basically it. Yeah, and that's a great way to end it. I had a question for you though, Kristi, because you stated that you married into Christianity, and then was it once you got into this is where you had this new revelation and then became spiritual, or how did that transfer happen?
Yeah, so that's a good question. When you're not raised to believe, when you're not indoctrinated and you're not raised to believe a certain doctrine or as a system of belief, then I think, and me just being naturally curious, I ask a lot of questions just to be a pain in the ass. And so when I got married, I was very young, and I was married a long time, and it was a very old school Southern Baptist way of believing, which was rigid. It was rigid and seemed abrasive to me, and I had a lot of questions immediately right out the gate. If here's this God of unconditional love, but you have to meet all of these conditions in order to be loved by him. And so, it just didn't make any sense, like right out of the gate. I had questions, but then I'm told not to ask any questions because that's blasphemous, and so you can't really ask any questions because you get your hands slapped or you're judged or shamed. And so it was a whole journey, but I started doing mission work, and I think that's what really started to kind of not resonate so well with me. There's a difference in mission work and humanitarian work. I applaud both. Both are great. But for me personally, it just didn't resonate while I'm standing here in a third world country using a translator to deliver a message as heavy as the gospel, with like food in my hands in front of starving people.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we've got this. We came to bring you this food. Here's this message. And we use a translator, so we know things are lost in translation. And then we leave, and where is the integration? We're 6 hours into the mountains in the middle of nowhere, Honduras. Are they good? Where is the church? Who's gonna, how are they gonna, how? So things just it didn't resonate. Things just didn't feel right with me.
How long ago was that?
2013 was the first trip.
So it started about then?
Yeah. So I started, and then also I had gone back to school. And so I had an hour commute, and I was finishing up a degree. And so I was listening to at the time, a lot of Alan Watts and Ram Dass and Terrence McKenna, and just a lot of, outward thinkers, and so I'm sitting in church and I'm questioning sermons, and I'm, and then I'm sitting in a church being taught by someone who I don't feel like is really educated enough in the material to actually teach it. It was just kind of, and so then when things are said, like, specifically, like there's 5 specific ways to pray, and if you don't do it in this order, then God's not going to hear you. Or, I can remember one sermon where it was basically Jesus was a cowboy, like, and he was not all love and light. He was hard, and he was this, and he was tough, and he was that. And I'm like, what? This just doesn't make sense. And so for me, it was just kind of a culmination of the things that I was listening to versus what I was being told, in the church, and like the way that it settled in my being. And if it didn't feel right, I questioned it. Ultimately,
How long until it led you to go on your journey? And
yeah. So in 2023, I ended up in Ecuador on an ayahuasca journey.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm going to hold you right there because we have about 30 seconds. It's great that you bring up ayahuasca because the guy I introduced you to before the show is the guy when it comes to that. So that's another synchronicity that we always talk about. And I definitely want to get back into and let you finish on the religion piece here. And I want to also ask you about that, Jared, because I want to see what's the conflict there, and is that the main conflict that you have when dealing with this subject? So we're going to go ahead and take a pause for a break right here, and we will be right back right after this message on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, guys. It's going to be a good one. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, we are clear, and you totally were still on YouTube when you snuck off camera there. But but I do want to let you know it's loving community here, and I'm sure they got a good one out of that. But I want to let you know as well, your mics, I don't think they're on. So I don't know if they're supposed to be on, but they're not on.
What do you mean
they're not on?
Yeah, because it sounds like you're talking through the computer speaker and not those mics.
Okay, where's your on? Okay, so I'm seeing output. Let's see. Let me grab
It's showing on.
Let me grab that.
We have about 4.5 minutes to figure it out.
I gotta go to settings.
I'll take you guys off camera while you do that here.
Audio. Hello. That's wrong. Speaker, that's right. And then what about mics?
Hold on, right?
No, that was correct.
Okay.
That's the start clip. Oh wait, no, speaker.
Default pose.
Oh no, that's
yeah, this is right.
The speaker.
Microphone aimed Scarlet.
No, that should be Scarlet.
I can't see this far.
I guess I'll mute them for the meantime too. Yeah. This is going to be a good show, guys. I can't wait until we can jump into the meat and potatoes. Let me see here. Also, I just want to say hi to a few because I didn't get to say hi earlier. So I want to say hi to Kim Jellin. I want to say hi to Blue Cruz, Jessica S. I see you out there. R-Way Man, hello. Thanks for coming in. Mel WD40, lubing us up as we get into the show. Appreciate that. Saying Jesus is a cowboy. I'll go ahead and start that question there. We'll save it for the guests for later. Let me see real quick. Nilram Kane, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you showing up. Let me see anyone else. Wise Ass McCoy. I always have a ball with your name. Wise Ass McCoy. Thanks for coming on in. The Andromedan, thank you for showing up. Let's see. All right. Eternity Eternal, I see you there. Mark Eddie. Ron's making me blush. Just giving you your love and your proper dues, Mark Eddie. Nothing more, nothing less, good friend. Let's go ahead and get back and check with our guests here. All right. So now no audio. None. I thought I had heard you for a moment while you were doing that, and it sounded like you were on your mics, but right now, nothing at all. All right, as they fix that here. Let me see. Is anyone else showing up? Do I see out here? Who else? Welcome to the show, Lee. Major Lee, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you showing up here tonight. And I know Drew Banking's in the back like, yeah, ayahuasca, baby, ayahuasca. So I already know that's coming up in the wrap-up tonight. Richard Minnick saying, Rob G. Richard Minnick, thanks for coming in. We appreciate you showing up. Let's see. Cielo Azul, I see you out there. Thanks for coming in. Kitty Catty Whack. Kitty Catty Whack. Thanks for showing up. Frankie B. Thanks for coming in. Oh, UFO Tim James. Did you see out there? Hey, UFO Tim James. Pat Leo Films. Appreciate you showing up. All right. Guess
bring it back to a big screen.
Okay.
How about now?
Okay. Say something, Kristi.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you in the mic now.
How about now?
And I can hear you as well. Yes, you guys are doing good.
Thank you so much for being patient with us. This is only our 7th year of doing this, or at least it's for her. It's like not. This is all my fault.
It's actually our first time podcasting in person together.
Yeah, you're it. You're the first person to hear us together in person.
Nice. I'm glad that I was able to be the one to kind of break you guys in. So great. Let's see. Let me just make sure. Okay, go ahead and say something else. I want to make sure I got your levels good.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
How about me?
I can hear you good. Yeah. It's a little distorted, but it will do. It sounds a little distorted, but
a little distorted.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of crunching when you talk more so. But we're coming back right now. 3 seconds here. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. Having a fantastic conversation here with Jared and Kristi with RKEO X. It's been fun so far. It's going to be a blast as we go ahead and continue to jump back in the conversation, guys. Remember, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can hop in our archives because they're absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio as we go ahead and jump right back into the conversation here. All right. So you were leaving off, Kristi, kind of going deep about, how this all took place, the conflicts that you had, before finally answering or asking questions on your own, like really opening up to the world, because I think if you're in that box, religion can keep you constrained and not asking the right questions. And I wanted to kind of get over to Jared on that. And I don't know, did you have any sort of religious background, Jared, just starting off?
Yeah, and I apologize. Is my mic all right for you for right now?
Yeah, it's okay. It'll do.
All right. Well, I grew up very Catholic. Dad was in the choir, Mom was in the bells. The contemporary group, edited we had a parish that had 14,000 registered families by 1980. So there were five sermons in the morning. St. Timothy's was huge. So I had my school ski club and my church ski club, and I did the whole thing: first communion, the all of it. I did everything except for being an altar boy, but I did it all. So mine was very strict. Mine was all the guilt, all the stereotypes, everything that comes with being Catholic. The thing about being Catholic that I appreciated was that I had all the same questions that Kristi did, only I had them younger, and you get all the same answers. You get, stop asking questions, just have faith. And I'm like, well, you didn't answer my question.
So I just now have more questions.
Now I have more questions. You see a lot of people just lay down and go, okay. And it's like,
whatever you say.
Yeah, just put the money in the basket. But I wasn't like that. So I wanted to understand who the Septuagints were. I want to understand, how did the Bible become the Bible? Again, when you're Catholic, here's the thing. Whether you're Baptist or any other religion, and I say religion because Catholicism is it. As far as all Catholics are concerned, if you're not Jewish, you are definitely Catholic, or you're doing it wrong. And that's the corporate religion. It's the state religion. It's the one that the Roman Empire created, really. And so I had all these questions. What are the origin documents? And now you start getting into what really is seminary, and you start learning, who decided what? Why don't women talk to God? And yeah, there's an avalanche of questions, but the clarity of why I had the questions is because of the stringent absurdities of what I grew up with. And not only was it them not answering the question, it was having, okay, well, now you got me down on a rabbit hole. Now I can actually look. Mm-hmm. Now I can actually, okay, is this like, okay, but this question then leads down to, who are the Septuagints? Why these books? Why was the Book of Enoch left out before? Like Von Daniken points out, and why are there spaceships? And why aren't women talking to God? And who's Mary Magdalene for real? And before I knew it, me and a group of friends who all grew up Catholic could have written the Da Vinci Code ourselves. But it was only because I was raised Catholic. If you didn't know any better, if you were just raised evangelical or Baptist, I don't know how you would get it. I don't know how you'd get it. And so it helped with my research, even with what I'm doing now, because you have to it's not about being skeptical about whether or not your religion is good or not. Everyone has a family of origin. Everyone has a spiritual experience. So it's not that I'm, trying to turn anybody away from their current faith system. That's not going to affect your questions about what are we all about? Why are twins connected? Why do we have dreams or downloads? Why do we think we're paranormal experiences? And, or we'll have all these different things, and we're quite different.
Well, I think it starts inside. Like, I think all the questioning and the curiosity and the whatever moment you look around and you ask why or what or how or, however your awakening happens, it's an inside. It begins inside. I think for each person, it's a personal journey, and that quest starts within, and it doesn't matter what religion you're from or what religion you were born into or how you've been indoctrinated or what narrative you've been force-fed your entire life or what childhood traumas you have or ancestral traumas stuck in your DNA. It doesn't really matter. It's just like an inner longing to know, to understand, and to search. And the more you start searching and the more you dig and the further in these rabbit holes you go, not only did the more questions you have, like you get an answer to one, but then there's 10 more that come from that one answer. It's like, okay, well, I found this answer to this question I've been seeking, but now I have 10 more questions, and so it's just like this never ending seeking. And I think that's a personal journey for everybody.
Yeah. And I think it, just to go to what both of you said there, I'm coming to find out the more I talk to people who have tested out the religious waters per se, because as I grew up, my grandmother was Christian. She would take me to the Church of Christ. So that's kind of where I grew up. But as I grew up, I would go to different churches. I went to, what do you call the Jehovah's Witness? I've been to a few different types of churches, and questions arose for me. And I think that's what it is. And I don't know what type, if it takes a certain type of person, because you have some people who just accept the word and that's it. They don't ask any questions. But then you have those who say, okay, well, if that's that, then because I looked at different religions and they all believed in a higher power, which I think everyone, period, whether you're religious or not, believes in that. But they had conflicting stories when it came to the stories within the Bible. So then I turned to that and said, okay, maybe these are just metaphors and not really, things that we should be taking at, as one for one. And then that got me on my quest to kind of ask questions. And it seems like we've all taken that same route, as you were saying, Kristi. So it's just something I wanted to point out because you guys had similar stories and then also similar to mine. So I think what that does too is it charges you for to go out and find the answers and makes you like fuels your fire to do that. Would you agree with that?
Definitely, 100%. If you're a seeker, I think that, some people are, okay with waking up and going to work and just doing the daily grind every day and, not really asking any bigger questions. And then I think that you've got people who are just like born with this innate desire to comprehend, understand, and know, and I don't think that for me, there's ever going to come a point where I'm not going to seek to know something, but I think that you're right. I think that's the way it happens for most.
Okay. So it lights your fire. Then you guys get together, you form the Avengers under RKEO X. And so what ends up being your mission, like your mission statement? What do you hope to achieve when this is all said and done?
Oh, wow.
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. There's a huge mission, but I think at the end of the day, it can be summed up by just we want to understand more of where we come from. We want to uncover our ancient past and connect. Can I say it? Consciousness.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, to all the facets of life and what is happening around us and how it operates in this physical universe, and I think that if we can understand a little bit more about our consciousness and where it comes from. So I think really it's more about planting seeds and kind of opening the door for conversation. That seems to be opening a little wider and wider, each generation. But I think like there's this crazy thing happening. I don't know if you feel it, but I do. And I know that we've talked about it and you do. And I think a lot of people feel it. There's a shift on the planet happening. Something's happening. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's definitely some energetic shift happening on this planet. And I think our consciousness has a lot to do with it.
I think that, just adding in with what she's saying is that there's our physical, like the historical dates and events and maybe the biologies of whatever and the tools and the physical things. But we all know the story of our history doesn't add up. Our faith systems have pieces of what are, I think, truisms, but the reality is that we have millions of years, we have no eyes on millions of years of human history, but it doesn't matter to the point of, as we Wim Hof, as we learn to do breath work in other ways, as we learn to reconnect with neurological systems that seem to be programmed for us to, in quotes, have downloads or have second sight or paranormal, or and those are not random things. I think synesthesia is the ability to mix all your smells and your senses and numbers and project and see these things, and remote view. It's not all separate. They're not like, oh, that's a coincidence. No, these are advanced biological systems that are on the fritz or fragmented, and they're part of what was once a global human society that probably could just, instead of using a cell phone, just tap into the collective consciousness through the ether and actually talk to each other or feel and sense in ways that I don't think we get pieces of it. And we've now labeled it with all these different systems, so we're confused about all of it. So the idea of RKEO X being able to educate do humanitarian work and actually practice like what we practice, it's not just a theory to understand about an answer to who was just in our past or what we were. It's the fact that we're already doing all these things with our consciousness through breath work and through our health and our fitness and everything else. All of it is activating systems that were dormant. And yeah, there seems to be that awakening or collective consciousness that seems to be more awake. And if we don't have any pointers on our past, if we don't start recognizing that all this is connected, and one of the ways to do that is to go, we have been here a long time, and we weren't just here a long time, we developed further than we understand. And if we can reverse engineer some of that, we can be more present and we can be more conscious. Is that too complicated of an answer?
No, it's not. But I think that to simplify it a little bit is we're born and we don't remember where we come from. And we're born into whatever, traditions and belief systems you're born into, and you're fed all of these narratives about what to believe and who you are. And then especially, here where, we are, everything is just labeled like good and bad and right and wrong. And so you grow up in this system of either like I'm good or I'm being bad or I did this right or I did this wrong. And we're just constantly putting these labels and restrictions and limitations on everything. And then, and we don't remember where we came from, and we have no consciousness of, and no memory of our past. And we're disconnected from one another as like religiously, politically. There's all this just division racially. We're just divided as a race on this planet. And when you start connecting consciously is scary for the people in control, for sure, because you start, if they can't, that's one of the reasons why we are where we are, is because of greed and power and control. And when people start waking up, that control and that power is lost, and people start realizing the truth behind reality and what's actually happening. And it's also for the people that, that are thinking about waking up or mid-wake up. It's scary, especially when you've been raised to believe a certain way your entire life, to then have to question everything you've ever believed in, and sometimes that's just too scary for a person to step into.
Especially when other people are telling you to stop asking the questions.
Yes, especially when every person around you, everybody you go to church with and your friend group and, everybody is of the same like mind and the same worldview, it's really hard to go against that and to stand up and say, no, that's actually not what I believe, because then you're called a blasphemist or you're judged or you're shamed or, whatever. But when you have a greater understanding of the human condition, and that's what ayahuasca does, when you have a greater understanding of the human condition, you understand that we're all just one race, like one species, one people on this planet. Like we're all one, we're all the same. And I can't hurt you without you, without hurting myself, and vice versa. I can't hurt him without hurting myself. Because if we are in alignment fully, then we are one with everything. And when you hurt other people, you feel that inside yourself. It's just like, if, you can't just go around kicking puppies, like.
You can, but don't do
I
that.
hope not. Yeah.
That doesn't feel good, inside. You can't, that doesn't feel good. You just can't go around kicking puppies.
Not the next TikTok challenge. Don't do that.
Don't do that. But it's just like you can't hurt living beings without hurting yourself in some sort of way, even if it's unconscious, even if it's just marginal pain.
So one of the things we're saying is that the idea of RKEO X on the big front is that we're actually going to pull this together to not just teach you our history, but to like, hey, can we through experiments and the field research and talking about it, but can we actually put together some lesson plans that help you stay within the guardrails of safety, almost, of not being confused by people telling you to shut up and not think.
Yeah, not think for yourself. Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing because as we were talking earlier, you have people who start out in religion. First of all, we're in a bubble already in this society, this manufactured thing. And then you're in a bubble within a bubble when you talk about religion. And so it's kind of, it's real cool actually that you guys are putting together archaeological finds and then consciousness as far as like trying to connect everything together. I think that's the right thing to do. And going back on what you were saying earlier, Jared, I feel like in our humanity's history here, when you look around and you see all these pyramids all around the world, not exactly the same, but the same concepts and ideas at a time where there weren't cellular phones, that connection likely was through consciousness. And and then for you, Kristi, when you talk about the lidar work that you do, I've always thought about as we find these pyramids in South America, then over in Egypt, that I wonder if we uncovered a lot of the area in the middle if we find the same sort of things, because there's no way you have two individuals on the separate side of the world to come up with the same thing. And it seems like they share culture as well. So, and I'm hoping that be something that you guys will end up uncovering during your research or at some point. But yeah, you can add to that if you would like.
Oh, well, they just did a new article. They were just talking about the Great Pyramid again, and Christopher Dunn's work. There's definitely signs that you're looking at an energy for sure, based on some of the experiments they just did with the chambers, with not just muons for finding hidden chambers, but actually some of the resonance is definitely frequency energy oriented. And so the similarities in the pyramids, there's dynastic stuff, the stuff that came after the big flood, that is, like the Mayan stuff, Aztecs, and even dynastic Egyptians. And I say that dynastically because there's keystone cuts, there's megalithic construction. So there's pyramids that are on ley lines, and there's pyramids like the Great Pyramid that are built 1/60th off the center of perfect north by north by south by south, 1/60th of a second. The best astrological center we have on Earth is like a minute off. They're not even close by comparison, right? So we have technologies involved in these systems. And from the 100th monkey theory, like you're saying, like, did people kind of figure out the pyramid thing at the same time? Yeah, sort of. Maybe they did. Some of them did. And collective consciousness is real. So maybe they shared some ideas about blue jeans. But, just go more contemporary here. But still, all of it, these machines that are truly megalithic, they're built on these energy lines. They're built on these ley lines. They're built with such precision, and they're built in ways that do not indicate that they are tombs. And these other indicators like the keystone cuts and the terra preta, these engineered soils, because terra preta is one kind of engineered soil. I think we're missing the fact that there are the compaction of these buildings, like the foundations themselves, all of it indicates high technology of human origin with millions of years of our history. It's human. It's not aliens. It's not that there aren't aliens, but not to plug the book, but RKEO X is doing that work. And hey, we didn't even mention that there is an actual expedition that you can come on us with at the end of May, into June. We're bringing people back to Belize to see the work we've been working on. So don't let us not forget to tell you about that later, Rob.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of want to get into like some of the, I guess, I don't know how far back you have uncovered, but what signs do you see, besides the building, the structures, the level of advancement that may have been attained by one of these ancient civilizations?
Tell them about the lidar.
What about, how it didn't work?
Yeah.
So one of the crazy things about the lidar sensor. So when Tom would start his lidar sensor, it wouldn't turn on if he were near any of the actual stones. He would have to walk away, like there was some sort of electromagnetic blockage between the sensor and the stone. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
And so he would have to step, 20, 30 feet away from the actual ruins to get his LiDAR sensor to kick on and work his way in order to actually walk the LiDAR through the site. It was crazy.
So there's dynastic. There's these ruins that are like, okay, they don't look that complicated. They're buildable for people a couple thousand, 4,000, 5,000 years ago, but they're frequently, I think, being built on something much older.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little blurred lines between who's primitive and who's advanced when they're, or, not to reduce it to them having a tingly feeling in that location, but they're like, we're building it here because we feel tingly.
Well, and then it is a tingle. You do get a tingly feeling in that location. When there's a certain, once it was cleared and we were able to get up on top of the ruins that we had uncovered and look out, you could see just forever. I mean, you could all the way out to the horizon. It was like looking across the ocean, just all across the jungle, like the top of the jungle. It was beautiful and amazing. And so there was something that felt very spiritual about being on that site, because at the top of each of those pyramids, standing on top of them, you look out and you just see forever. And so it did feel that way. And there's ruins all over the jungle, which is insane to me. So that, just the villagers and the people that live around just say that there's just ruins here and ruins here and ruins here. And so there's just history all over the planet just waiting to be discovered that we don't, it's everywhere and it's all around us. And it just blows my mind that there aren't more discoveries being made on an hourly basis.
Well, there's the discovery part, and then there's like do the work and uncover it.
Yeah, figure it out. Like do the data, do the research.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was in elementary school, junior high.
Let's hold right there. We got 10 seconds before we go to our top of the hour break. So we'll continue that right after the break. When we come back with Kristi Bass and Jared Murphy, RKEO X, guys, don't go anywhere.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Okay, we have to go to an off-camera break, so this will give you a chance to work on the microphone. Try turning the volume down, or maybe do what you were doing before. We'll be back within 5 minutes here.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yeah, you actually sound really good now.
Okay, wait. So the mic was too hot.
Okay. Great.
Is that it?
See you in 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yep. right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. So we have about 15 seconds left before we come back from radio. Bring our guest back up on stage here. Let's see. Yep. Questions this hour, guys. Put them in caps. I'll be looking for them, tagging them. Here we go. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show. After hour number 2 with our guest, Kristi Bass, Jared Murphy with RKEO X. Getting into some really deep conversation. This has been great so far. Like I said before, if you missed any of it, you can always hop in our archives. They are absolutely free. YouTube.com/at Spaced Out Radio. Dave says we have a plethora of options, and I agree. As we go ahead and jump right back into the conversation here. So I know we're good now because we tested the mic right before the break. Can you guys hear me here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we sound good?
You sound excellent, and I know everyone's ears will stop bleeding now because of the.
Oh God, guys, we're so sorry. It's been a whole hour of ear bleeds. My bad.
Sorry.
30 minutes, but we're good. We're good. It was great conversation, and they were able to hear what they needed to hear. So, with that being said, we were kind of talking about the pyramids being all around the world and how that's strange. It seems like there had to be some sort of interconnectedness, and I've heard you, Jared, talk about also the hinges that are found around the world as well. You know, I definitely feel there's like a level of synchronicity historically as far as that goes. How would they just come up with these ideas on their own? What would you say to that?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that at some point when you just look at primitive history in the Natural History Museum, all the rock banging primitive peoples, tribes, they came across these things in the last 5, 6, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 post Younger Dryas, right? Post biblical flood. You have a survivor groups of people here and there. They come across these sile stones, like the Stonehenge in Scotland that everyone, the big famous Stonehenge. You have they're made out of silicrete, which is an indestructible stone. That's not just a normal stone. Whoever put those things together, those megalithic blocks, and made the nubs on them and the way they came together, that's really some advanced stuff. And that's some really amazing construction. But cairns and other standing stones, a lot of them are remnants, I think, of what was a pre-Younger Dryas many different societies or cultures, but the stones that are left have been adapted by all these different people that, again, they didn't know what a keystone cut was. The Greeks have constructions, even that a keystone cut is where you have two megalithic blocks, and for whatever reason they've carved out two perfect, whether triangle or sections where they've poured in metal, which, by the way, no one's done the metallurgy testing as to why. They're just like, why would two 150-ton stones need to have a little metal piece connect them? Well, that's conductivity, and that's connectivity through sound and energy. But you'll see these keystone cuts in constructions that are Greek and Roman and Egyptian. So these are stones that should be set flat. They're up in a wall, and one they're supposed to be connected together, and one will be in one row, and one will be up higher. And the construction looks pretty. It's like, it's a temple, and they built it like that. But no. Whoever used that keystone cut moved the block to no longer be where it was on the ground for whatever the original construction was. So over and over and over, you have all these cultures just coming across these stones, kind of doing the same stuff with them. As to why, were they all worshiping the same people, or were they all druids? Were they all sorcerers? Were they all witches? Were they all wizards? Was it what time frame, or what Sumerian thing, this, that, or the other, or Angkor Wat and all the East? So yeah. We all have a lot of similar ruins with similar cultures picking up over 5,000 years, 8,000 years of just kind of figuring out what to do with it. But none of them exactly have the same houses or the same religions or the same anything, really.
Yeah. How do you, and I'm just trying to, so how do you reconcile that then? How far do you think these previous civilizations have gotten? Because obviously we consider ourselves to be pretty advanced. Do you think they ever reached the level that we have? Because I know I've also heard you talk about as well, just like the electronics that we carry currently would be disintegrated in 10,000, 20,000 years, right? So,
So you wouldn't have a record of the higher technology, the more likely you wouldn't have it left. Michael Tellinger used to joke that some kid's going to walk up to the Great Pyramid with a USB or something or some new one and plug it in and download all the music or something from like 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And and what happens when we're practicing consciousness and we're actually getting to the point where we're actually not using a device, but we can actually see like synesthesias. So there's visual synesthesias, there's smells, there's colors. So when you think of these complex Corinthian columns, the very shape that they're in, if you were an active synth elite, you could look at a shape like that and it might project a math equation or a math system or a sound or music. So things that you look at as a structure or an artistic thing, a synth elite, someone who has synesthesias, could see things like that and hear music and see colors. So instead of painting something, it's the very shape of something that could be the way you would mess with art and science and consciousness. If 20% of the world is considered synth elites, they have some form of it. Like some people recognize it, even if you get chill bumps when you listen to music, or sometimes you see things, maybe not a vision, but there's base levels of synesthesias, but that's just one biological example of something that was clearly, I think, part of a programming, something that we added to the human feature. And again, it would have been in a time period where, the Ural Mountains, you've seen those little gold nano tubes and screws and things that were found in a layer of earth, like 220,000 years old. That's not us, and that's not cavemen. So there's 220,000 years. So when you talk about how far back, well, here's little gold, highly advanced looking screws in a layer of earth that's 220,000 years and no one talks about it. Or, hey, we're going to be talking to the gentleman that found the sunken city off of Cuba soon, right?
Hopefully. So I think that everything boils down to just us. We're born with everything that we need. We just don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can wrap all that up by just saying we have everything that we need to do all of the things that we're here to do. We just don't know how to use it.
We forgot.
The knowledge has been lost over time. If you think, if you look back at the beginning of time, every war that's happened, every victor knocks out 50% of history. They go in, if the winners go in and they just tear down the losers, they burn everything up. So all of that information, all of the, all of the documentation, all of that written history is in written tradition is just lost. It's gone.
History is written by the victor.
Yep. So basically that's what happens is the victors write history. And then we're just told to believe it, generation after generation, century after century. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we're born with everything that we need to connect with ourselves, to connect with one another, to connect with our planet, to connect with all the things that we're meant to connect with. We just don't remember how to do it. And we're not actively practicing, like breath work and yoga and meditation and all of these different types of modalities help not only heal your body, but connect you to yourself, to divinity.
Okay. So on that note, you made me think of this. Everybody biblically, you think of the Garden of Eden. So I was talking about Terra Preta and frequency and energy and how it connects. Well, when you're born with everything, like what Kristi's saying, by tying this into why is RKEO X looking into the past? If we can figure out they're building an engineered soil that's next to a building that is also in a certain part of the earth that is dealing with XYZ kind of earthquake. So you have this polygonal construction that cancels an earthquake. Great. That's one layer. But what you've got to wonder then is if biologically we have this consciousness connection, why can't we then piece together, if they built a certain polygonal construction and use certain metallurgies in these keystone cuts, if we just do some of the research, if we understood in a practical way the frequencies and energies that they're using for the constructions, and if we could relate to some synthelites to look at some of these columns. I don't think anyone ever asked. In fact, I've never, until your show, I don't think I've ever asked it. Why don't we bring someone with the right kind of visual synesthesias to look at some, or just show them pictures of some of these columns, and what do they see? What do they hear? I think we're going to hear and see some really interesting things if we start combining our ideas of consciousness with what looks like ancient lost high technology that used and was programming that consciousness.
Yeah, that makes total sense. We and to Kristi's point as well, we talk about that on the show all the time about your senses, the known senses, which is 5 so far, probably likely more than that as we figure all this out. We'll figure out we have 10, 12, 15 senses. But I call these our superpowers because they technically are, and they actually are the things that we need, the tools to figure everything out. Common sense is one thing. Common sense is so huge, and I think it actually helps answer a lot of the questions that we have about the world that we live in. And it makes sense that you say that once we can kind of rediscover those things or abilities, that we may automatically be able to tap in and get a lot of this data that we're looking for. And that just makes a lot of sense because the knowledge is out there. It's in the ether, the connected consciousness that you talk about as well. And we may just be able to instantly connect to that and get the information that we're looking for. I don't know how you feel about that, but you can add to that if you like.
So we had Gary
Cucuchulio.
Yes, on the show Wednesday night, and was it Wednesday?
It was Wednesday.
And he had some really interesting things to say about that. And he basically described, all of the information that exists ever in existence is in the ether, right? And all we have to do, so when I first started waking up, the idea of we create our own reality was really hard for me to comprehend. I did not understand how we do that until I started digging in a little more to physics. And then I started realizing, okay, this is actually possible. We could do this. And so the way that he describes the way that most people view reality, and it was a great description. If we go back to on our website, that'll be on there. He basically describes it as like, what he did was he picked up a book and he said, like, all of the information that has ever been in existence exists right here, but we can only read one word at a time. Like it's linear. So, but we know that time isn't linear. We do know that. Like that's a common concept. We know that time isn't linear. And so if time isn't linear, it's like Jared's saying, it's not aliens, it's us. If time isn't linear, how do we know, that the past and the future humans, how do we know what they look like or what kind of climate they've had to adapt to? Because we're just currently destroying the planet, So what kind of climate are humans 1,000 years in the future going to have to adapt to? And if we have the technology that we have right now, and you look at the last, just since the Industrial Revolution and how we've advanced since then technologically, like if you look at the next 1,000 years, okay, let's just say that, let's just say we've been on the planet for millions of years, right? Okay, we just look at the next 1,000 years technologically, where we're going to be. It's terrifying to think about. where we might be in 1,000 years.
Scare everybody a little more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is, and I agree, and we also talk about that too. And I feel like it's I truthfully feel like, and I've said this before, humanity for whatever, and it may be because of what we're talking about, but humanity has lost that connection to nature that everything else has on this planet, and it seems like it's technology that takes us further and further away from that natural connection with the planet. And I've often questioned with these past civilizations if that's why we end up having to start over again, because technology takes us so far away from being in sync with the planet that whatever it is comes about, and we have to start over again, back to basics, back to feet on the ground, sticks and stones, and back to that in order to. But it seems like our natural instinct as human beings is to go the technological route for whatever reason. And what I'm trying to find out is, because currently our aspirations for humanity right now is to eventually take ourselves off planet, become a multi-planet species. And it makes me wonder that, okay, if we're going with every other civilization has also been highly advanced, is that the natural state for human beings to want to keep advancing technology and eventually go off planet? Were the previous ancient civilizations drawn by that same thing, a desire to eventually go off planet? Or is that something we just came up with in this iteration of human civilization? If I'm making
we have things like the Black Knight satellite. We have, I got to speak with Eric von Daniken a couple different times, and he, I think, always is privy to a lot more knowledge in this area and has access to people that will talk to him. That I believe him when he says, and this is 7 years ago, that there was at least 6 satellites similar to the Black Knight satellite. So we're talking ancient, tens of thousands of miles, like 18,000 miles. I mean, way above what we consider an orbital space, right? And we're talking whatever. We're talking about what looks like an asteroid or a rock, but the kind of biometric it looks like a brick. We recently did that. So what we would think of as a satellite and something technical might not look technical to us, or may look like a crappy space rock. But the idea of a prior advanced civilization building systems, leaving the planet, possibly selling Mars, possibly leaving the solar system, why not? If we're looking at, gold nano screws in the Ural Mountains that are 220,000 years old, chances are, it was from a spacecraft externally, or again, based on the millions of years of human history. It's me growing up Catholic. So when you said, just to rewind, when you said, hey, we get it wrong, so the gods smite us. You didn't say that, but he did not say, Mr. Rob did not say God smited us. But there's the Greeks, it's like the gods, the stories are always that they're very personal, and that in our time period, we grew up thinking that, every now and then God wants to wipe his hands clean, and or we're bad for understanding technology, we're bad for destroying the earth or whatever. But again, there's Terra Preta. It's in Russia. It's in Ukraine. Ukraine is considered literally called the breadbasket of Europe, and there's a black market for their engineered soil. It's ancient, but it's the same recipe in North Africa, South Africa, and in South America. So there's a worldwide, and this is just in the land mass that we know of. 6,000, 8,000 years ago, you could walk from Scotland all the way to France. And 12,000 and 18,000 years ago, it was a full-on continent-looking thing. So we tell our stories about our history from the land when we think of the earth, from what we see. We don't know the stories of civilization that are underwater. We think of Atlantis. We don't think of whole coastlines and whole countries and whole continents being gone. And all that ties into, well, I'll stop. Your turn. I'll just quit in the middle of this thought process now.
I don't know where you're going.
Well, where I'm going, there's just no way that when we think of God smited us and so we had to start over. Well, that's a very like last 2,000 year way to look at anything because, well, all we got are the Hindu checks and the gods had wars. And then we have, the earth is flooded by, the biblical sense. We have all these contemporary indigenous cultures that have, well, yeah, everything flooded. And next thing you know, there's a city off of Cuba, 2,700 feet below. And that makes sense. But the reality is that we don't look at it and go, there's millions of years of human history. That means our coastlines and all those people, they flooded. And it wasn't Zeus and it wasn't anything Christian. It wasn't anything Hindu. Maybe it could have been, I guess, because they got millions of years of history in their books. But who smited you is likely just the coincidence of time and not because you arrogantly came up with a better way to watch TV.
Yeah. Yeah. So what it begs to understand then what the fate for our current version of humanity is, right? Because we're obviously in a place where we could destroy everything with the weapons that we had overnight. That could be done, and then we start this process all over. So, but it's interesting because I think you're on the right path with that, and then the consciousness part of it, I think, is what will eventually connect the dots. Because I don't think the archaeology alone would do it, because I think what happens there, and you may agree or may not, but I feel like science is a tool and not necessarily the rule, right? So I think you can examine things and have ideas or theories, but there's a missing piece to it, because as you said, the current construct of what they've told us is the history of this planet or humanity seems to be wrong, and we can't understand why. And I think that is going to be the final piece, just the consciousness connection that puts it all together. People call it enlightenment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's exactly what it is that we're waiting for. So it's awesome that you guys do this stuff. Now, I do want to do this because I know we have about a minute left before we go to our final break. I want to, I heard, Jared, that I guess you can't really elaborate. Give us a cliffhanger. I heard you had a near-death experience.
Yeah, I was clinically dead for 45 minutes and I died 7 times. There's your cliffhanger.
Yeah, quite a cliffhanger. So, God, this is anything for you, Kristi? Anything crazy like that?
Oh, I've never died. No.
Yeah, thank you.
Never died.
I had an ego. I've experienced an ego death, but I've never physically. My heart's never stopped. I thought it did.
Your esoteric heart stopped.
I had an esoteric death.
I guess we can hear about that. But have you seen anything from the other side? Maybe paranormal apparitions? Anything from that other realm?
Well, I saw a UFO when I was about 17. As far as apparitions, anything on the other side, no. I just saw myself on the other side.
Okay, we'll
Which was
hear
pretty
about
terrifying.
that.
So
I gotta imagine. I've never had. Well, actually, I did. Maybe we'll get into that as well. It was recently. I almost forgot that I almost died in my sleep the other day. So that'll be something.
The other day.
the other day.
Yeah, literally, like about
You
2
just
weeks
forgot
ago.
it?
I totally just forgot about it. I'm like, okay, now I can add to that conversation. So we'll go ahead and make sure that we do that. And everybody else out there, make sure you get your questions ready. I've checked a few off, but we would like to see as many as you guys are going to put forward, because the next 30 minutes we'll be talking to our guests and posing your questions. So get those things ready as we get ready to take our final break for the night right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We'll see you in just a minute. All right, guys, we are clear. I want to go ahead and say hey to a few people here. Paul Damon, I saw you out there. I didn't miss you. I saw you definitely. You were there. I can verify you were there. Let's see who else came in late. Let's see, Broken Shadow Feather. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you showing up tonight. Who else do we have here? Who else has come in? Positive Vibes, 1976. Thanks for coming in. Lisa Piper. Lisa Piper, thanks for showing up tonight. I don't know if I said hi to you, Jeremy Jones, but hello, Jeremy Jones. Thanks for coming on in tonight. And just Kevin. Hey, Kevin. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing on up. And let's see. Let's make sure that we are current. Monica. Hey, Monica. Thanks for coming in. Bob Thorson. Thanks for showing up tonight. Kevin Kennedy. TMI. Appreciate you coming on in. Let's see. Okay. Kai Snyder, did I say hi to you? Blue Cruise, Chill Farm Brisbane. I don't think I said hi to you. So hello to you, Chill Farm Brisbane. And I think we're current there. So let me go ahead and bring our guest back up on stage. So, Jared, we're still on break. Kristi, we're still on break. Everyone can see us and hear us right now. We have about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And actually, this is time. If you need to go get water or whatever, definitely the time to do so. But I did want to let you know, and I'm sure you heard this, Jared, that Tartar says, hey, it's Nick Cage.
Thanks.
That must mean you've heard this probably a billion times before.
No.
No, never?
Yeah, I don't see it. I do it. I am national treasure, but
I heard that. That is hilarious. Yeah. So I definitely wanted to make sure that we brought that up here. But yeah, you guys have 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Anything else you need to do, we can take you off camera so you can do that.
Sure.
Okay,
and
cool.
we'll
Thank
be
you.
right back. All right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Right, great show, guys. Yeah, Paul Damon, human history. Yes, definitely human history. That's what I'm talking about. That's really what it's all about. It's the questions that we want answers to, man. I mean, everybody wants these answers. Everyone does. You know? If you don't want these answers, I don't know what you're doing. Just live your life in your bubble and never question where humanity came from or what the connection is to this planet and all that good stuff. Yes. You know, we talk about consciousness all the time. It's all about that. I'm sure Drew Banky will be elaborating in hour 3 in the after hours wrap up. So you got to make sure that you're here for that. What'd you say? The Andromedan people who say pyramids were built by hands, they are cavemen themselves. I say they were built by off-worlders. I mean, hey, it's opinion. And here's the thing. I think it's a great perspective to consider, hey, the fact that maybe we did do that, especially if we've been here longer than a lot of people think that we've been here. It just makes sense that human beings and all the same materials here that we use today are the same materials on Earth that were there a million years ago. So we had the same capability to build the things because the materials were here. The question is, did we or did we not? And I don't think anyone in here can actually answer that, but it's the journey that we're on, right? And it's the reason why we stay inquisitive and continue to look for the answers. They are out there. All right. Okay, so we got about 30 seconds left here. All right. And once again, guys, make sure you get your questions all in caps. I know Drew Banky has submitted one. All right, 10 seconds. All right, and here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show after hour number 2. On the back half of hour number 2 means we only have about 20 minutes left with our guests here, Kristi Bass and Jared Murphy from RKEO X, talking ancient human civilizations. What's the connection? The connection is to consciousness, guys. You guys already know that. Once again, if you have missed any of the show, jump in the archive. Absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. All right. So, Jared, you were about to go into your near-death experience.
No, I died 7 times medically. I was had a widowmaker heart attack.
Whoa.
It was on Memorial Day 15 months ago, and I died. And then they brought me back, and then they double paddled me again. And I had a heart attack. The widowmaker kills 91% of the people who get it. Mm-hmm. I died, and then I had a cardiac arrest. So then my heart stopped. And then so some people just have a heart attack, but I full on, my heart stopped. So then they started it. Then I died again. Anyway, 7 times the charm.
Wow.
1 8-day coma later, and 7 more days in ICU. And I walked out of ICU, which nobody does. So there's a short documentary about it that people can watch if you're not familiar with Minnesota, the Hennepin County Medical Center. It's HCMC, but Jared's story. And there's like about 8 videos, and they're not too long, but everyone involved is, I guess I'm a walking miracle now.
Yeah. Yikes! Yeah, definitely, definitely a walking miracle. Yeah, I've never widowmakers. Yeah, usually don't. Yeah, you don't come back from those.
No.
So let me ask you this, and a lot of people will want to know, especially the clinically dead. Essentially, did you see anything at all? What was the experience, or was there even anything?
Unfortunately, no. They gave me a lot of drugs. And their theory is that if you don't remember the trauma, you'll do better in the recovery. So I was on fentanyl. They had me on a cocktail of about 5 drugs the entire time I was in the coma, and a little bit while I was out. So I don't remember the event. I don't remember what happened. I don't remember being out. We have some ideas that maybe I should try some different hypnosis or ayahuasca or something would maybe jog the memory. Haven't done it yet.
He's scared.
I'm scared too. Jared, let's 1-to-1, man. I'm scared too. Don't worry about it.
Well,
it's a serious thing because you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, for one. And
right.
Do you want to know? And that's the thing. That's the scary part about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Now, but if you do choose the ayahuasca route, I have a great buddy, the guy you met earlier. He does these retreats where they do this ceremonies. Mm-hmm. So I definitely would hook you up with him. But
all right.
But Kristi, you've done ayahuasca already?
I have, yes.
Okay. Then what was your experience then? Because I know there had to be some great experience there.
It's terrifying.
Okay.
And amazing all at the same time. I think that most people that experience ayahuasca probably, it's a hard thing to explain. It's an otherworldly experience. It takes you outside of yourself, which when all you've known is the inside of yourself, you know, or being in this body, and then
Mhm.
your consciousness goes somewhere else. It's scary to be outside of yourself, you know, and to leave yourself and feel yourself leaving yourself,
Mhm.
you know, and not knowing where you're going or what is going to happen or what you're going to see. And you just have to go with the journey because you've just drank, you did it. It's in you. And there is no, you can't look back. You can only do it. So,
So
but it was an eye-opening experience,
yeah.
to say the least. But I will say that even as profound as the plant medicine was, that's where I learned. I had my first breathwork ceremony, and the breathwork was just as profound as the plant medicine. And so a month later, I went to Peru and got certified to teach breathwork.
Mm.
Because I learned what the breath does for your body. And so, yeah, psychedelics are great to kind of kickstart you into healing, you know, kind of kickstart that healing, but there's still an integration that has to happen afterward. You can't just go and blow your mind wide open and then come back home and live life normal. You
Yeah.
can't, it's just not possible for most people. For some people could just go right back to sleep, but for most people, you can't unsee what you've seen. And typically what you see is the inside of yourself. And so you have this deeper understanding of the human condition, and generationally, you know, you're able to let go and forgive and move on, and because you understand so much more than you did before about why we are the way we are, you know, and that, you know, our parents did the best they could, and their parents were probably doing the best they could, and so on and so on and so on. And so, you know, it's really just like tying it all together, consciousness, you know, psychedelics and what they're able to do for our consciousness, and ancient human history and archaeology and the discoveries that we're making, and really just pulling it all together. Like that's what RKEO X is trying to do, is just trying to understand like how it all fits, like how do all of these puzzle
Mm.
pieces fit together. And it seems as though the more we rely on our own understanding, the less we understand.
Yeah.
The more we open ourselves up to, we can call it other other dimensional downloads, or, you know, divine downloads, or, you know, just information out of the ether, you know, being downloaded during a meditation, you know. But you've got to open yourself up to that. You've got to do the inner work. You have to start the healing. You have to do the breath work. You've got to do the meditation. You've got to learn how to sit with yourself, you know. And so everybody doesn't have to go do psychedelics to
Yeah.
open themselves up to their higher selves, or to other dimensions, or even have kundalini awakenings. You know, that's the breath that can
Yeah.
lead you there. It doesn't have to be psychedelics. It's not for everybody.
And I'm glad you said that, because I've said that as well. I've said that Drew is my guy, and we talk about this all the time, the ayahuasca thing. And you know, I told him, you know, it is a way for some people. Some people are born with the abilities already unlocked. Some
Mm-hmm.
people need crutches in order to unlock themselves, and that's when you lean on those things. Hallucinogenics in general, there's LSD, all sorts of things that make you kind of go there. But then there are some people who simply sit down and meditate and do breath work, and that is just another tool to get there as well. So yeah, you're right. There are definitely multiple ways of getting there. There isn't one answer to it, and that's a good thing to put out there, just so people understand that. Like, you don't have to do this. This is
Yeah.
something you could do if you chose to. But yeah,
It's
it's
not
definitely
for
great you
everybody.
said that. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was interesting at the retreat because, it was the first time I had traveled solo. I traveled all around for my job, all around the US solo, but never out internationally. And so I went to Ecuador in the middle of Andes Mountains by myself. But at the retreat center that I went to, most of the people that were there were doctors. They were doctors and there were vets, so it's not just for people who are trying to wake up. It's also just people who are trying to heal and people who are seeking, doctors who are trying to understand. I think she was a psychologist or psychiatrist. She ended up coming back to the States and getting a certificate in psychedelic psychedelic studies, and so now she can do psychedelic therapy, which is amazing. And so it's, you've got vets going down and coming back with no PTSD or lessened symptoms, and anxiety and depression. And so there's some sort of intelligence in the planet that we're not tapping into. There's intelligence in our bodies that we're not tapping into, and there's some sort of connection between the two that we don't fully understand yet. But we do know that ingesting takes us places that, we wouldn't go otherwise. And we know that earthing helps with inflammation and disease in the body. And so we know all of these things. It's just trying to piece it all together, like he's talking about terra preta. And, there's this soil why, and what's it for? And what if we earthed in, what if that's what we did? What if we took our shoes off and we earthed and in nothing but terra preta soil? What would that do for our bodies?
Yeah.
Why is it there? What does it exist for? Is it for healing?
Yeah, you never know till you take your shoes off and connect with the earth, which people don't do a lot. And I say this, getting back to the whole consciousness thing, because this is all wrapped up in that as well. But I've said, and I don't know how true this is really. It just makes sense to me when I say it and hear it, that I think the only difference between like geniuses and regular people, or geniuses are usually born unlocked and connected to that source that we are all trying to connect to. And that's really, to me, I feel like the only difference. And I speak from a place of being an artist, a musician, and knowing that, and I'm sure many artists feel this way as well, but you grab ideas out of the sky. Like, you grab an idea that is maybe not even your own. Maybe you're channeling this idea from whatever this is we're connected to, and you're manifesting it physically through your fingers. And just that feeling and knowing that that's something that you're doing, that's how I know I've been unlocked for a long time. And I think there are artists, I think that's just a natural thing. So I don't know what is your opinion on that?
That's how I describe creating your own reality. So when I think about manifesting and creating my own reality, when I first started trying to understand that concept, it was so hard for me to think outside that box, the box that I grew up in, or the box that I had, just society, culture, whatever. Creating your own reality. How do you do that? Like, how do you manifest? How does that work? And so I was just telling him, 2-3 days ago, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I don't know, that I feel like when you create your own reality, that's exactly what I feel like I'm doing. I'm reaching up into the ether with my mind, with my consciousness, and I'm grabbing out whatever it is that I want to create, and I'm pulling it down into existence. And that's really all we're doing. Like, if you can picture it that way, that's all we're doing. And it's a matter of belief. It's like, you can't do it with doubt. That's maybe where Christianity, like the faith aspect comes into it. It's like, if you go into something doubting that it's going to work, it's probably not going to work. I recently started rock climbing, And one of the things that Jared has said many times is you get this monster in your head that tells you when you're almost there that you can't do it.
Mm.
You know, every climber has that monster that says like, you can't do it. You're not going to make it or whatever. And so the other day, my son and I were in the gym, and I tackled this wall that I had tackled. It was my 4th or 5th time to be on this wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally made it to the top. And the whole time I'm thinking about this monster in my head. And just like he has said so many times, it's the same monster that says, like, you can't do this and you can't do that. And you're not good enough and you're not worthy and you're not this and you're not that. And once you're able to silence that, then that's where I feel like you're really able to start tapping in to the power of manifestation. When you can silence that monster inside that creates the doubt and the worry and the anxiety, and you can sit in what I call the calm of the tornado for a second, and you can just focus and be with yourself and put your intention on what you're wanting to create and what you want your reality to look like. It eventually just happens. And it's the craziest thing to witness when it starts to happen. It's the craziest thing to witness, but it's really awesome also at the same time, because then it's like all of the concept, it's not conceptual anymore.
Right.
You know, once you actually start creating your own reality, it's not just this distant concept that you've read about and learned about and listened to on podcasts and read in books. Like it's something you're actually doing actively with intention, and you're seeing it happen and unfold in your life. And it's like, oh, damn, this is actually doable. I can do this. And it's easy.
And you know what? It's a small example of this overall goal that RKEO X has of connecting to that database of consciousness. Is just showing that you have the ability to do that, but it goes a little bit higher than that as far as us connecting to the source and getting all the answers. And I saw Jared speak to this, and he's being quiet right now, but I saw him talk about collective consciousness, and you know exactly what you're talking about there, man. And it seems like you're kind of a good spiritual coach when it comes to kind of articulating that to other people. And
That's what you are.
No, you.
Me?
He said you.
Yeah. I saw you speak on collective consciousness and the ability to articulate that, because you showed a graph where you had like the magnetic poles, right? I saw that. And that's kind of how I feel about it. You know, the way that we connect, like if you walk in a room and you feel someone's presence in the room, you just know it's there. It's that interconnectedness that we have. And I almost explain it like if you were able to put on a pair of glasses and see a different spectrum, you'd see Wi-Fi, you'd see all sorts of things around you that we're walking through, that we're interacting with. And that's the same thing as the consciousness is. And I saw you show that graph, and that explained it correctly, like exactly. So I know that you're on the right path with that.
Oh, thanks. Here, I thought you were talking about Kristi. This is great.
Well, no, you both have your heads in the right space, and you're on the right mission. And I love talking to people that are doing that and trying to, do things that take us to that next step. Because my whole motto here is like conversations that move the needle. And, you have to be, that's why I asked, what is your goal with RKEO X? Because it should be something that takes us a step further as humanity. And that's the answer that you gave. So for me, that's awesome. Exactly what I wanted to hear. And it means that you're doing something that at the end of the day is beneficial for not just you, but for everyone. Right?
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. And so I know the show is called Not Aliens, but let's talk about aliens. Those things that were just in the sky, those drones, we got about 4 minutes. What is your outlook on those?
Well, RKEO X, we're podcasting everything on Wednesdays with Kristi and I. Not Aliens still exists, but it's all RKEO X now. And she is really, she's this is right up her wheelhouse. She loves this, so go for it.
So he's not I don't think he's as big of a believer as I am.
Well, it's not a belief thing. It's just that they exist. It's just, what are they?
Well, I just think it's odd that everything is happening when it is. The timing of everything is just odd to me. It's strange to me how I feel like I'm super sensitive to energies, and so I feel the shift happening on the planet, and I think that I'm not the only one. I think there are millions of people everywhere that feel the shift on the planet energetically, especially if you have any sort of sensitivity to it. And so I think that the timing of that, with the drones, the UAPs, the UFOs, the orbs, my mom and sister both sent me video of orbs over their homes. And they're changing shapes and colors and sizes and doing weird things. And it's just, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's some sort of interaction in the atmosphere. I don't know. It could be that. It could be some crazy interaction in the atmosphere that's happening. It could be the government trying to make us think that it's orbs when it's not. They could be sentient. I have no idea, but I just know that the way it feels for me is that there is some sort of sentience attached to whatever is happening in the skies. Because, I know that there's drones and that's not, and I know that there's all kinds of stuff flying around in the skies that is owned by different private and government, entities. But as far as some of the weird things that we're seeing and the way that the shift feels like that's happening it feels bigger than us. Yeah. That's the only theory I have, is it feels like maybe, being optimistic, is that there are beings that are visiting to assist in raising the vibration on the planet. Like, that's what I think. I just think that we're currently not headed in a good direction as a species, and I think they may be here to kind of curve that a little bit and raise the vibration of the planet. So that's my hope, anyways.
No, and your good thing you said about that is you felt something, and that's the key. We're back to consciousness, because in the interconnectedness of everything. Because when it's a moment like that, they tune to your frequency, and you feel something, and that feeling is definitely something other people have felt as well. So, I just wanted to get your opinion on that, and Jared, if you wouldn't mind letting everybody know where they can find you and how they can go hit subscribe right now.
Well, RKEOX.com is where you'll find Kristi and I. We stream from RKEOX.com every Wednesday night at 8 Central, and we have guests, and we do some pre-records, but all of our current past shows are there. Not Aliens on YouTube is where we're also simultaneously streaming the show, but we have RKEOX social media coming shortly. Now.
Yeah, working on it, one step at a time. And then we've got tours coming up. So we have RKEO expeditions that we're planning. We have Belize in May. We've got Peru in July and Egypt in September. And all of that information will be, we're currently working on wrapping all of the tour information up and putting it on the website tomorrow.
So that means if people want to join us, that means an expedition that you guys we are absolutely inviting people to come with us, go see what we've done in Belize and see where the crystal skull was found, Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, and a lot of other stuff. But yeah,
that's some ruins that we've uncovered.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to keep that in mind, and I'm gonna talk to my guy Jim Goodall and let him know I met you guys. You guys are awesome. We got to hook back up again. This was great, but let's do it again. I will reach out. Outside of that, you guys are fantastic. Have a great rest of your night. Take care.
Thank you.
You guys don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with hour number 3 right here on the Spaced Out Radio After Hours Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Mr. Rob
Thanks,
G
guys.
On the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio.
You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we're clear. You guys have a great night. Take care. We'll
Thank
talk
you
soon.
for having us.
No
Hey,
problem.
Rob, you
Yes,
got one
sir.
more second?
Yes.
Yeah, just so you know, we're not working with Jim Goodall anymore.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So don't pass it on.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Roger that.
Just,
Roger that. We
yeah.
can talk about it behind the scenes. Yeah. Let me know.
Well, let's talk again. We'd love to be on again. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Take care.
You too.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3. I don't know why that played so soon, but it shouldn't have. Let's see here. All right, that was strange. We're going to go ahead and run that actually real quick here again. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It's been a fantastic show so far. I want to thank our guests, Jared Murphy, Krista Bass from RKEO X. Fantastic conversation. We'll be having them back for sure. And remember, if you missed any of that conversation, you can jump back in the archives absolutely free. youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. And we're going to go ahead and get ready to get into some old Stevie Stockton Tales Untold Missing Person Mysteries, because as I always say, it is awesome that we have the ability to have Steve Stockton as a part of the show, and we will continue to do so as long as he allows us to. So let's jump right on into it. Here we go.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. Conrad Whitlock. Conrad Whitlock was 72 years old at the time of his disappearance on July 28, 2019. He vanished under mysterious circumstances after telling his wife that night at around 8:30 in the evening, right before he retired for the night and went to bed, that he wouldn't see her in the morning because he had to go and get some tests done early. Conrad had recently been suffering from headaches and was presumably going to get it checked out. Just before 3 a.m. on the 29th, the E-tag on Conrad's BMW was detected on the Maroondah Highway on the way to Victoria's High Country. 3 hours later, he drove through the entrance gate at the Mount Buller Resort, which was witnessed by several other motorists who all claimed to have seen Conrad himself behind the wheel. Approximately 7 hours after he left his home in the middle of the night, seemingly with no destination or reason in mind, at 10 a.m., his car was found abandoned on the side of the road, and Conrad had seemingly vanished right into the ether. He hasn't been seen or heard from since. When she woke in the morning and couldn't get a hold of her husband, Conrad's wife, Mandy, called the police and expressed her concerns to them. Then they tracked his phone to Mount Buller, and there his car would be found abandoned and empty, with the keys still in the ignition. After what was described as an exhaustive 6-day search effort conducted to try and locate the missing elderly man, who up till now had shown no signs of dementia or other mental illness, there seemed to be no rhyme or reason why he left his home when he did or drove the route he did, just to end up abandoning his car haphazardly parked on the side of this isolated road. The rescue effort included police, Mount Buller search and rescue specialists, forestry workers, a dog squad, and an air wing. Dozens of searchers and volunteers combed the area where Mr. Whitlock's BMW was found, but it was all to no avail, as no other trace of him has ever been found. The overnight temperatures in the area at that time were dropping to -3 degrees Celsius or 37.4 degrees Fahrenheit, and it had started to snow. It's believed he had no provisions with him at all and was definitely not equipped for such harsh weather. The coroner stated that, because of certain things going on in the world at that time, the pandemic, NSW cadaver dogs weren't able to join the search until months after Conrad had initially gone missing. Peter Towner, a former Victoria police detective who worked on the case, said at the time, "It was a long delay, and that, I think, has compounded the fact that we didn't find him. I don't think we'll ever find him." Coroner Parisa Spanos asked Mr. Towner, "We're about 15 months after the event. Do you know if the cadaver dogs would be expected to find a trace?" His response was, "They were quite confident that if he was there, they would have found him. I wouldn't say they were unsuccessful. They just didn't find him. he wasn't where they searched. It was later discovered that just a few days before he disappeared seemingly into thin air, Conrad was participating in a practice session at a racetrack with his Mustang when he crashed into a barrier. Now, it's alleged that he didn't hit his head, but later witnesses came forward and said that he had a large bruise on his forehead after the incident. This is when his wife says he first started complaining of severe headaches. It was also uncovered by investigators that, right before he vanished, Mr. Whitlock had been searching on his computer for things like amnesia and memory loss. The lapsed Scientologist was even searching about his previous religion with a search of the word Scientology. Mr. Tober believes Conrad's head injuries could be the cause of his disappearance and believes he could have become confused and disoriented when he woke up around 3 a.m. and decided to get into his car for whatever reason and go for a drive. He stated, "My personal opinion is the bang on his head manifested in his mind that he had an underlying serious brain embolism or something like that." Conrad was also recently prescribed what was referred to as a powerful painkiller, which was never found and was presumably on his person when he went missing. The investigators say that all this combined with high altitudes, freezing cold temperatures, and the fact that he hadn't eaten would definitely account for why he most likely succumbed to the elements. Mr. Towner, who now works for the Victoria Police but in the capacity as a public servant since retiring, also stated you could simply slide under a log, under a fern, and you could literally walk straight over top of him and not know there was a body there. He also states he became drowsy and disoriented, and I simply believe he wandered off from that car and met his demise, whether he's just slipped and fallen. Without any other evidence, I have to believe that he's there somewhere. Next up, Niels Becker. 39-year-old Niels Becker, who was described by those who knew him best as strong, fit, and resilient, prepared for months to embark on a 5-day solo hike in the Alpine National Park. On October 24, 2019, Niels left Upper Jameson Hut to start his journey. It seems as though Niels was right on course to complete his 5-day hike, as on October 26th, he messaged some family members from Vallejo Gatner Hut to tell them he was heading to Mount Sterling and then heading back to his vehicle on the 29th as planned. He never made it back, though, and that's where the mystery begins. Niels was reported as missing after his family hadn't heard from him in 2 weeks, as they had possibly thought he simply needed more time. Being as he was usually very independent and an avid outdoorsman, especially when it came to hiking, they weren't at first concerned. Once the report was made, though, a group of about 70 volunteers, including the police, a dog squad, air wing, bush search and rescue, state emergency service, and the Department of Environment, searched for him around the clock, looking for Niels in, near, and around the location where he said he would have been hiking, which was Victoria's northeast. They searched the entire week until the weekend, when the search was scaled back significantly, mainly due to the temperatures in the bush at night. Senior Sergeant Damian Keegan said authorities were still appealing to the public for information. Like with any of those searches, we always strive to return loved ones back to their family, he says. We'll continue on with that view, and then at some stage we'll be able to find Niels and be able to give some closure to the family. Senior Sergeant Keegan said the police had a few theories as to what could have possibly happened to Niels Becker. The theories mainly dealt with the freezing cold overnight temperatures and the fact that Niels could have walked out of the search area and succumbed to hypothermia and therefore never been found. This is very likely because nobody was sure which route he was taking to get back to his car. Niels' parents, Johanna and Piers Becker, said their son had meticulously planned the hike for an entire 6 months before heading out and chose the dates he did because he wanted to spend his 39th birthday walking in Victoria's high country. They said he'd been training by walking around Melbourne carrying a rucksack. They also talked about Niels having a high affinity for the high country and how he'd hiked it many times before with no issues or concerns. This was to be the longest hike he'd ever gone on alone, though. Niels loved writing and performing Christian music and lived at home with his parents. Last week, I was so optimistic, and my daughter said he'll come out with an epic story. But I think after Tuesday and yesterday, well, we're not so optimistic, Johanna Becker said. His father, Pierre, stated, he's a bit of an independent person. He writes a lot of poetry. A lot of the writing is about the high country around Mount Bueller. Niels' parents asked for anyone with any information to please come forward to the police, especially if they remember having had contact with a solo hiker in that specific or surrounding area. Next up is Warren Meyer. On the morning of March 23, 2008, 57-year-old Warren Meyer left his home to go for a simple hike to enjoy the new spring air. While no one is sure exactly which hike in the Yarra Ranges this very experienced hiker chose to take, there were only two, with each one able to be completed in about 4 hours or so. Warren's wife kissed him and waved goodbye, expecting him to return in a little more than a 4-hour time frame. He had plans with his wife and some of their friends to meet for lunch that same day, and Warren was a reliable man who wasn't often late, especially without calling. This time was different, though, and when her husband was a no-call, no-show that day for the lunch engagement, she immediately knew something was wrong. Later in that afternoon, Warren's vehicle was found in the Dom Dom Saddle parking area. It seems as though this is where he parked it when he left for his hike that day. Warren Meyer ran a successful civil engineering consultancy business in Elwood, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, and had no reason whatsoever to have disappeared of his own accord. He was happily married, and he and his wife had 2 children who they adored. He never got to meet his 2 grandchildren, as they were born after he had vanished. His wife believes he would be really enjoying his retirement right now and enjoying their life together had he not vanished off the face of the earth that fine spring day back in March of 2008. Warren's parents passed away, never having received any answers as to what happened to him. He simply walked into the woods for a hike one day and was never seen or heard from again, like so many of the missing people we talk about on this channel. After waiting years to finally have a ruling on how the case was handled and what avenues were taken to ascertain what could have happened to her husband, Ms. Myers received, unsurprisingly, according to her own words, a very unsatisfactory explanation. The inquest determined Warren's date of death was unidentified, his manner of death undetermined, and the place of death unknown. Unbelievable. There are many other factors and concerns the family have about how this case was handled, but to get into the minutiae of each and everything believed by the family to have been mishandled in Warren's disappearance might take away from one simple fact. The fact at the heart of the matter itself. Warren Myers simply vanished, and there's no information whatsoever to even allude to where he may have gone and what might have happened to him. So, as all these hikers continue to vanish, rumor and speculation run rampant through the surrounding towns. Is there someone taking people? Feral humans? Are there cryptids, known or unknown, that are responsible? Is it all or none of the above? Something else entirely? We might never know the answers, as the mountains and forests hold their secrets close. All we can do is continue to search, never giving up in our quest for finding the answers and perhaps bringing some peace of mind and possibly closure to the families of the victims.
All right, that was Steve Stockton tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries. Gotta thank Steve Scott every single time. Stockton, not Steve Scott, Dave Scott, Steve Stockton. Steve Stockton every single time because he always brings it, right? And we always have to remember these are tales untold, missing person mysteries. So those aren't just stories. Those are things that connect directly to some family out there who may be missing someone. So hopefully those become tales told, found persons mysteries, right? Hopefully we get something like that at some point here. But we're going to go ahead and jump right on into our next segment because you know what time it is. It's time to get Drew Banky on stage and talk about the After Hours wrap up. So let's get it on.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Come here, I'm going to eat you! Get in my belly!
Kick him in the north! Kick him in the north! Go it! Wolfman's got north! You're a monster!
Welcoming Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up. It's been about a week, man. How you been?
What's going on? Everything's going great. Going great. We had great guests earlier tonight here. We had Kristi Bass and Jared Murphy. And not 5 minutes into the conversation, do I hear the word ayahuasca? I'm like, yeah, Drew's in the back. Like, does anybody know Drew's right there? Drew's in the back. I'm talking ayahuasca here. This is the synchronicity and all that crazy stuff, man. And it was just like, okay, all right. So you sat back and I know you watched the interview. How'd you feel about everything? How, did it resonate for you? Man, it was spot on. It was great. Other than, the snafu on the first hour with everybody was scrambling. Yeah.
for with the whole audio issues and everything. But other than that, man, it was a banger. I resonated with all of it all the way to the end. Front to back. Near death. It was so many things they were talking about.
Oh, death,
E-
actually.
Egypt. Talking about Egypt,
Yeah.
I'm about all that. I was sitting at the back in the back, chomping at the bit. But
Yeah, I knew you were. I had to keep referencing you because I was like Drew Banky, Drew. So yeah, no, he's not just near death.
Yeah.
Flatline. Come back from flatline. That it reminds me of flatliners. That's why I asked him if he had seen anything. But I guess when you're when you're drugged up, when they keep you in that state, it may not allow you to have the experience, because you have people that get medically induced into comas and things like that. But I guess I don't know. I've never been that close to. Well, I've never been that close. I think I had near death a couple weeks ago that we could talk about, but I've never been. That's flatline. That's over the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe it needs to be regressed or something.
That's what he was talking about. He was talking about.
He was talking about psychedelics or regression. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I watched the whole thing. You know how I am, man. It was right off. It caught my attention right off. So, and just stuff there. I look for synchronicities. I that's part of the language that I go by every day is just the synchronicities. So, yeah, it was just spot on, very interesting, and yeah, I'm sure that whatever their explorations and the stuff they got going on down south is amazing. But it's just it's so interesting. The truth always just comes through, and it's just a short. There's not many truths, but when they are, you hear them over and over and over again. And I think we see that, just all the time. We had Caroline Corey on last weekend, talking about the same type of stuff, same base message and all of it. The whole oneness aspect, connecting to nature, letting nature help us connect back. Telepathy, extra human abilities, psychedelics. It's the story just keeps repeating over and over and over again.
Beautiful thing for me was in the unexpected part for me, but it is the common theme that it's the common bond that we know that bonds everything together is the consciousness. We always talk about this.
Always.
So it was awesome for me to get to see like a physical real world search into the truth for humanity's history. That means getting out there and going to these locations and, like she was saying, doing the lidar and literally being boots on the ground. The physical aspect of trying to retrieve things and just unlock answers that way, but then also marrying that with the whole consciousness aspect, because for every physical thing that we try to do, you do the physical thing alone, you won't get the answer. As I was saying earlier, you'll have at the best an educated guess, but the thing that seals the deal and makes the connection is the consciousness piece. And then the revelation of, okay, if we, during this journey and their mission to for RKEO X, getting to that finality is going to be the moment when they're able to marry the two, and when that consciousness really starts answering some of those questions, right?
Sure, but the separation is self-imposed. So really, the science and the consciousness, there is no separation. That the science is part of the consciousness. It's just part of this new part of the evolution of consciousness. So once this merging will eventually be looked at, in the future. It would be, when we look back on it, it'll be just a merging of science, because it's all part of it. Any ideas, I say it all the time. That's why everything is sacred. That's why everything, because everything that we see is manifested. If we didn't manifest, we'd be all naked, staring at each other, sitting on a ball of dirt with nothing, because we couldn't manifest anything. Everything that we see is manifested. So
the way I'm trying to frame this is, and I'll give a different example. So say right now you go out to go fix your car, right? You're handy with your tools in your hands. You can do the job. You've never done this job before. You could maybe figure it out if you spend enough time sitting there and playing with it and looking around, but being able to grab your phone, which is the consciousness, and go to Google or YouTube and just bring up how to do it, and then immediately tapping in for the answer, it answers that physical question. When the physical question alone is something that you could potentially tackle, but you can immediately get the for sure answer through this Wi-Fi, which we'll use as an example for consciousness. And it's just, that's what I mean by that. Like the physical, the science for me, yes, you can find answers. And I think that, but the problem is for me is that with science, they change their answers every 20, 30 years. And maybe it's because they haven't tapped into consciousness. Maybe because they're trying to answer these questions in the physical and not really relying on that. Imagine if science, just like what they're doing, imagine if scientists and all these people who are in this science world had also tapped into consciousness at the same time. They might literally get the actual answers instead of just educated guesses. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I know. I understand exactly what you're saying. I mean, the whole idea of science, like the baseline of science understanding, like they're changing at a rapid pace right now. Just like the linear, what they were talking about. Same thing. I've said exactly verbatim some of the things they were saying about that time is not linear. That's a baseline understanding that science needs to take on as a fact and apply that to everything. Just that one factor changes all understanding. If you apply it to all understanding as fact, which I believe, and more people are coming forward saying this exact same thing. So I'm led to believe that maybe I'm right. And let the imposter syndrome be quiet for a minute, and just facts are facts. A truth is a truth. Sometimes stuff's made up, but sometimes a truth is a truth. And I believe that the linear timeline, and this is one of the clips that's going viral right now from that last interview. It's approaching 300,000 views, talking about my thoughts on aging and how we're really not aging, because we're perceiving reality through three cones, when other animals like butterflies, they I think they're up to like 7 or 9 cones or something like that. So they're perceiving a totally different reality. Like their timeline and what they're perceiving is totally different because they're seeing it differently. So they're ingesting their reality differently because they're looking basically through different lenses, like higher grade cameras, and we're looking through 1970 Polaroid cameras.
Yeah, I can see that. I could definitely see that. And I'm trying to wrap my head around it right here. And as we get ready to go to break, because we got 10 seconds left, and we are going to be right back right after this break on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show with me, Mr. Rob G, and my guy right here, Drew Banky, doing the After Hours wrap up. Guys, we'll be back Don't go anywhere. And like I always say, if you do, just make sure you come right back. It's okay. We'll be here, and we'll see you when you get back. And we'll do some UFO and weird news of the week to kind of shut the show down. 20 minutes left. Let's get it done. Spaced Out Radio. All right. Clear. What was I going to say? Someone asked from X a question. Greeting. Do you guys think we're containers for aliens? In what sense? Because I don't know exactly what you mean by that. If you're still over there on X, kind of elaborate, because I've heard people say that aliens have told them that our bodies are just containers, but I don't know about containers for aliens. Now, when you're saying that, are you saying, are we essentially being bred? Are we, being farmed essentially, or on behalf of aliens? Just kind of elaborate on that. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that.
I think we are. I think we are aliens. I think there is no separation. I think oneness. I think the oneness theory and idea extends all the way out into the cosmos and back. I don't think it stops at the atmosphere of this planet. I think it's all creation is tapped into this oneness consciousness. I think we're all connected.
The consciousness piece I can agree with, but I'm not related to no insectoid, man. I'm not related to a mantis, a praying mantis being with hooked arms and the whole bit. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like an insect. I don't feel like I'm related to any insect here on the planet. I can go with the human type of extraterrestrials.
That sounds a little racist. That sounds a little racist. I'm just saying, man. Like,
I'm just
saying, like,
they
got feelings too. What if one's like listening, like telepathically, spaced out radio from another galaxy right now, and just sitting there like this, and it's like, man, I was born like this. Like, you know what I'm saying?
But I don't know, man. What I will say is, I think the life force, which is the whole consciousness piece, I think that I can say relationship in regards to that, but like bloodline sort of relation, like related.
But
like,
I think that's like secondary. I think that's like nuts and bolts. The nuts and bolts conversations about UFOs. I think it's the same thing. Ultimately, when we're talking about consciousness, we can't, start to look at, our form and stuff like that. Like if we're really believing in consciousness, because well, let me ask you this: like, where's the borders of consciousness? Like, what's the borders of the relationship? Is it physical? Is it physical form, or is it consciousness?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. This is where I can agree with you at. If we go simply consciousness, like pre-birth, when you're just energy out of your body, right, and you're not in a physical human state where you have genetics in play, then yes, because I think all energy is connected. I think it's all one energy, and it's all part of one thing. So in the raw sense, yes, but in the physical that we're currently living, no. Like,
I'm pulling you over to my side, man. Slowly but surely, I'm pulling you over to my side. But listen, in ayahuasca ceremonies, it's talked about and known and experienced over and over again that insects start to interact differently, make noises around, especially in the jungle and stuff like that, down South America or anywhere. I've experienced it several times, especially like when we do outside ceremonies in Florida, or if it's nice outside, the bugs and insects, they will react in a different way to that are around that ceremonial area. It's weird.
I don't know, Jabanky.
We're all connected, man, and that
The consciousness,
it
yeah.
goes to infinity and beyond. Buzz Lightyear, the great Buzz Lightyear.
To infinity and beyond.
Not Tom Hanks. Don't get me canceled now.
What's wrong with how? Tom Hanks? What's wrong with Tom Hanks? Something wrong with Tom Hanks?
I don't know. Kendrick Lamar, I think, busting him out and talked about him in Super Bowl thing.
Oh Lord, I gotta look at that. Tom Hanks is my guy, and maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
so
I don't know. Don't connect
I'll just
yourself.
say I love
Don't get yourself
Saving
canceled.
Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan is a great movie.
It's a good
coming back
movie.
5 seconds here.
Good movie.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 3. Coming back with the After Hours wrap up with Drew Banky and myself, Mr. Rob G. We are going to be talking about the interview tonight. You know, what we took from it, and it was a great interview. Obviously, if you missed any of it, it's in the archives right now. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. As we get ready to take this thing home tonight. So, we were simply talking about consciousness and, how everything is interconnected. And I just like the fact that, and I was saying before the break, that I like the fact that they are taking a science technically and crossing it with consciousness. And it's just that I've never seen that. I've talked to a lot of people. I've interviewed a lot of people. I've never, and it's great work alone. Just wanting to go look into the humanity's history and connect those dots just by itself is a noble thing, especially when you're getting up off your couch and going to do it, traveling to these places to kind of connect these dots. You're doing it on behalf of humanity, which is a big thing for me, because I believe if in this field, in this UFO space, in this whatever you want to call it, consciousness space, that you should be doing it not for self, you should be doing it for humanity. And so that's always a noble thing. But then, it was just blew my mind that it was being crossed over with consciousness, because I think that's the key. And we talk about like the natives and how I've said previously that, hey, within your research, have you ever talked to the natives about this to get their opinion to kind of help formulate where your mind is at on what you're researching? And a lot of people say, yeah. But I think really the thing is just conscious. It's the same thing, because it's essentially saying the same thing. Like the natives are tapped into consciousness for sure. And that's what they rely on, to retell the stories and kind of line up what they're seeing and kind of match that to what they know as far as that goes. And I think that's when I say tap into the natives, I think you are doing the same thing if you're implementing consciousness into what it is that you're doing. I think that was clear.
Yeah, for sure. And the Native American, spiritual practices and things like that, whether it be with or without psychedelics, the peyote church, or the sweat lodge that has no psychedelics at all, that can be very transformative and very expansive. Can help you expand. But these are ways that has been done. The sweat lodge is done in many other regions of the world, just in different ways. Just a real basic technology of being in darkness, sweating, and a chant basically is the basic formula of what's used in sweat lodge. It's used down in Mexico and Tezmacall. Slightly different than a Lakota sweat lodge, but if you go to a Lakota sweat lodge and a Navajo sweat lodge, it's going to look different. They're going to be different practices, different songs. They might have different have a chorus of, like when they sing songs, they might have a chorus of 4 chorus, or they might have a 3 chorus, depending on, what tribe or what region you're in. But the basis behind it, and some of this stuff dates all the way back to Neanderthals. They've been finding proof that they were doing similar ceremonies to all the way back then. So, there's no one. One thing that, um, and to clarify, not all natives are connected. Just like any demographics, like there's some people in that demographics that are going to be more connected and less, and that's not wrong or right. It's just is what it is. But you can't just just say if you're native you're connected, because it's not. Just like anyone, you're going to have people that are not into the ways, or into different ways, into different spiritual practices. A lot of natives were assimilated to Christianity and stuff, through the boarding school and stuff like that. So but you can still be connected in Christianity. You can still be divinely connected, and I guess that's the basis behind it. What we're talking about is connecting to that divinity source, energy, and no matter how it is. But yeah, I think the practice of following nature is a proven and something that we're starting to learn more and more about. There's foreign countries that if you go into a hospital and you got certain colds or coughs or ailments, they're prescribed you to do 3 hikes a week, or go swim in the ocean twice or something. They will actually prescribe you to be in nature. It will be a prescription. It was a clip that I just recently seen. It was very interesting. I knew nothing about it, but here in the Western world, we would not even, that's so far out the realm, But I think it's the movements here, I think this is the time that we're going to start seeing more understanding on psychedelics, more understanding on just healing with nature and healing with frequency and vibration. I think we're right there at the beginning stages of starting to unfold this package.
Yeah. And I can't remember. It's been so long where I talked to I want to say it was Deb Shakti, and I was talking to her about
Never heard of her.
great lady, fantastic lady. And actually I need to book her soon here. But I just I talked to her about there will come a time where you have a full generation of children that are kind of already born this way, already unlocked. Like we get older, we try to figure out the ways. We finally wake up in our later years, and we spend the rest of our lives kind of unlocked and awakened. But you're gonna have these generation of kids that from the first day of their life on Earth, they're gonna be fully unlocked and fully aware
It's
of who
starting
they
now.
are.
It's starting now. Just look at Hawk and Ember. Ember's 20 months. Hawk just turned 3 in January. Their reality, they're starting in a reality where UFOs are real. It's widely accepted. Their parents are, they hear it talked about. They've heard UFO stuff and ceremonial stuff and all this woo woo stuff talked about ever since they were, first birth. And
Yeah.
it's not just them. Like the reality that children are being born into now is UFOs are real. Just think about that one truth. Like you can buy weed at a store in most states now. Like that was something you wouldn't even think about, like when I first started smoking, in my early teens or whatever,
Tell me about
that's
it.
something you wouldn't even think about. This is a whole new reality. Psychedelics are becoming legal and more understood. This is something you wouldn't even conceive. So it's a whole new reality. Like it's a whole new timeline. Now
But
look
to
at
be
my old
fair,
look look at my older two kids. They're living in a split timeline, really. Like
All right.
you know, my Sienna, she's 21, about to be coming up on 22 this year. So she started off same as us. Like she started off in a reality that UFOs were fake, aliens were fake, and consciousness was, you know, not accepted. And now she's living in a different timeline.
Yeah, because but yeah, like I said, she'd be more of an example of like us, where she'd gone part of her life,
Yeah.
just and then one day was awakened. But see, the young ones got the cheat code, because this isn't when I mean they have parents that allow them to be able to be unlocked and kind of, you know, facilitate them being unlocked. But what I mean is without any sort of prompting, or, you know, just out of the womb instinctually, you know, being unlocked, like on a mass scale, where it's like a whole generation, like every single child born from this day forward, every child being completely unlocked, whether or not their parents are unlocked themselves, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just like it's like in the DNA of the
Yeah.
but you're, you know, obviously you guys, you're the cheat code, you know what I mean? Because you're fully spiritual guy, and you're into the thing, and you speak this to them so they get that nourishment each day. But like for just a random child on the block to be born unlocked and realizing their powers, you know what I mean? It's gonna be crazy, man. I hopefully we get to see it in our lifetime, because it might be like Harry Potter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
truthfully, it might be sort of like Harry Potter, dude, where all these kids have these powers and they're running around and just, but it could be scary, right? I don't know. It
I don't think
depends
it's
on
scary. I don't think
if they're
I don't
used
get
for
that
good.
vibe at all. You know, that's always my
Well,
answer. But I was on a podcast this earlier today, a couple hours ago, and we were talking about the hunter monkey theory. You know, have you ever
okay.
heard of that? Like there
Uh-uh.
was this study going on with monkeys where they were teaching them something, but when it got to a point of 100 monkeys knowing it, even the ones that had no contact with it started
No.
to like this data transfer. But
Learn,
what
yeah.
yeah, so it's reached outside the group, the test group, because they reached over 100 monkeys. So so it was just just interesting, and I totally
Yeah.
believe it. And what I my really answer to it was that's proof of our quantum connectiveness, the quantum field being connected,
Yeah.
and it's connected all the time, whether we know it or not, or whether we try or not. That's just our perception. Like we talk about how to raise our frequency and lower our frequency. Really, that's all self-imposed, like, because it's all there, like what the guests were saying, just exactly what the guests were saying. It's all there. We just kind of need to get out of our way. Like that's more the answer of what is really going on. Like we need to get out of our own way.
The suppressors need to get out of our way. They need to allow everybody to wake up. And it's just, oh, it irks me so bad that they know that we can make these connections, but they just choose to stand in the way. And sometimes when I say stuff like that, I just think about how somebody on the outside who is just hearing this for the first time, how they look at a statement like that. But it's the truth. Like and it's just on the basic senses and feelings that everybody has. And I think once you realize that thing that's called deja vu that you feel, or that man, I need to call my mom, and then your mom calls you, sort of situation, like it's happened to everybody, whether or not you believe in consciousness or not, it's happened to you. But that ends up being the proof. But I having these conversations, I think, is what connects those dots for those people. They're like, oh yeah, I did have that feeling one time. Oh, so that's what that is. Oh, okay.
No, I see that the movement's happening. This is like that. Like the clip that's getting the most attention right now that just got released a few days ago. It's at 370,000 views, and it's talking about me getting healing through energy and being taught by grace. It's an experience I had. So that tells me like this people are ready to hear this. Like this is one of the more popular clips that he's released over the past couple weeks is this one clip. And it tells me, like I said, it tells me that people are ready to hear it. You know, that they are ready to hear it. They're open to hear it. Now, there is like, I think there's like 12,000 comments or something like that on it. There's a lot of comments. I don't know exactly how many on there, but there's a lot of comments. But all that has shown me is there's a sharp divide. Like, you either love or hate me in those comments. You know, there's people that want me dead or think that I'm really onto something in those comments. It's a sharp divide. But it's just interesting of looking at this when my content starts getting more and more traction. It's interesting to starting to see like patterns coming up now, like the divide in the comments. But overall, I mean, there's, it's been seen over 370,000 times. So
what I'm talking about. The reach is awesome. And we are going to get ready to wrap this thing up. Drew Banky, we've got about 5 minutes left. Enough time to drop one story. Appreciate you coming in. We're going to be doing this again tomorrow night. Same time, same place. Talk to you soon, man. You want to say goodbye to anything to anybody?
Nope. See y'all tomorrow. Yeah, appreciate everybody for being here. And yeah, appreciate the support, everybody. So talk
That's
to you later.
right. And send me the link to that video too, man.
Yeah, it's on Insta. So if you guys check out my page, it's on Instagram, and just look for that big one, that big number, and
the big one. Yeah,
the
we're
big
gonna
one.
look for the big one.
I'll send you a link right now, though.
Okay, appreciate you, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, later.
All right, Drew Banky. That's Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up, guys. We're gonna go ahead and jump into weird news. We could probably squeeze out one good story, and we're gonna go ahead and try to do that if you don't mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, UFO and weird news of the week. We have a story here. Archaeologists find 2,000-year-old body of a woman without a head and think they know the disturbing reason why it's missing. Known as the Ballymacombs Moor woman, the body was found without a head in Northern Ireland. Archaeologists examining the 2,000-year-old remains of a woman without a head think they've discovered the gruesome reason the key body part is missing. Found incredibly well preserved in Bogland in Northern Ireland, the site quickly became a potential crime scene, with officers from the police service of Northern Ireland cordoning off the scene. But police quickly stood down after realizing this was not a modern death in the slightest. In fact, it was one that dating back to before the birth of Jesus Christ himself, and the case was handed over to archaeologists working within the PSNI. One major question remained: how did the body of this person come to be found without a head? And why was this head removed? Known as the Ballymacombs Moor woman, in the time since the initial discovery in late 2023, initial inquiries thought the remains belonged to a young man before DNA sequencing changed the sex altogether. Forensics put the body as being from 343 BC to 1 BC, making her at least 2,026 years old. And despite it being from thousands of years ago, partial fragments of skin and fingernails were still on the body due to how the peat had preserved it. Now, working with other archaeologists, historians, and forensic specialists at National Museums Northern Ireland, they have estimated the woman was between 17 and 22 years old when she died. Standing at around 5 feet and 6 inches tall, she was a pretty tall woman for this period of history. But what about the head? Gruesomely, there are clear-cut marks around the neck bones of her skeleton. That means her head was deliberately taken off of her body. And due to the time period she was alive, it can be estimated that her death may have been part of a ritual sacrifice, a trend found with other bodies found in bogs across the British Isles. According to Archaeology News, bodies found in bogs, usually a sign of violent deaths, include stabbing, bludgeoning, hanging, or strangulation. Eileen Murphy, professor of archaeology at Queen's University Belfast, had been the person in charge of the osteological assessment. Professor Murphy said, quote, as is the case for so many Iron Age bog bodies, the young woman suffered a highly violent death that involved the flow of blood from her throat, followed by decapitation. Quote, the head was taken away, but the body was left where it fell, only to be discovered by machine workers some 2,000 years later. Further scientific analysis, including the conclusion of DNA analysis, will no doubt yield more fascinating findings. Detective Inspector Nikki Dehan previously said, quote, this is the first time radiocarbon dating has been used on a bog body in Northern Ireland and the only one to still exist, making this a truly unique archaeological discovery for Northern Ireland. Work is now taking place to fully preserve her remains at National Museums Northern Ireland. That is your UFO and news story, weird news story for the week. And it's decapitations. Oh my gosh. If you go back in history, obviously these happen for different reasons at many different points of time. And never the thing that you want to find. I always dread taking a walk somewhere and coming across something like that is one of the things that kind of frightens me. So yeah, with that being said, awesome story as well as awesome guests tonight. Kristi Bass and Jared Murphy, RKEO X. Hours 1 and 2, we want to thank them. We want to thank Drew Banky with the After Hours wrap up, breaking it down with me. Also, Steve Stockton Tells Untold, Missing Person Mysteries. We want to thank him for sure. We also want to thank the man that you hear right here, Ron Bumblefoot. He's the man that rocks us out each and every weekend as he tells us to never say never again, because yes, the phenomena is very, very real. And because of that, that means anything and everything is possible. If you love the conversation tonight, make sure you go ahead and show your love by throwing the horns up. We also want to thank our viewers and listeners from anywhere and everywhere you might be watching around the world. We appreciate you tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. What's that, you ask? We own the night. This show is copyright SOR Media Ventures Limited, Spaced Out Radio. It has been a pleasure serving you once again as your host. I'm Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all you space travelers out there, it's not a goodbye nor a farewell. However, as we go off air for the night, you can best believe we'll be right back here. Same time, same place. So make sure you're there. Much love, everybody. Take care. Have a great night. See you soon. All right, we are clear as a bell. And I just want to check something real quick. Because I think I got a message here that I can share from old Davy boy. Let me just verify real quick where we're at here. Let me see what he was talking about. Before we get up out of here, I want to see if it's something worth talking about here. Maybe we can talk for a second before I shut it down. Let me check this message. Otherwise, it's been a great show tonight, guys. I do appreciate everybody who has come out tonight. It has been awesome. We'll need to go ahead and make sure that we have our guests back again. And also, anyone else that you guys want to have as a guest, that's a big thing. You guys got to let us know. Send us messages. I'm on Facebook under Rob G. I'm under all social media under @Mr. Rob G. Drop a message anytime. Let us know who you want to have on the show. That way we know who to go get, right? We'd appreciate your input. And okay, yeah. I see that, and that's very true, Dave Scott. If you're out there watching, we're going to make sure that we do that. Guys, we're going to get up out of here real quick. As I say good night to each and every one of you guys, you already know how we get up out of here. We want retribution, and that's what we're going to do. So talk to you guys soon. Keep a lookout. Not sure, we may do an after-hour show. I have to literally drive home first, and we'll see how I feel when I get there. But keep an eye out. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your night. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.